Hey everyone, we've had a really interesting question which I've been pondering on how to answer it. And it says, Hi Claire, could you tell me the pros and cons of the COVID vaccine from the 3P perspective? So from the three principles, what are the pros and cons of the COVID vaccine? Well, to begin with, I can't give a perspective on behalf of the three principles or non-duality or spirituality or any other discipline of approach. All I can do is look at this question from the perspective of me um, in relation to a conversation about what's real and about what we are and about what the mind does. So I think where we can go with this question is, so really the question becomes, what is real about the pros and cons of the vaccine? And where is the concept of self and concept of other tied into the pros and cons of the vaccine? Where is the concept of health and future and death tied in? Because all of these things point the way to consider how everything, really everything about how the world appears, about how we navigate within it, is entirely dependent on what is being believed from moment to moment. And what is being believed depends on what's learned, doesn't it? So this sponge brain of the baby acquiring information all the time, wired to receive information, to work it out, like it's a dynamic calculating mind, really, isn't it? That's forming rules all the time. How does this work? How does that work? Predicting, what's going to happen if I do this, or if I change it slightly, so this brain is learning all the time. And that creates a belief structure through which behavior emerges, through which the system, this body, mind, self identity, works within the world. So what we can say to begin with is that everything we think about the pros and cons of the vaccine will depend on what we've learned. They have to, because it's a thing out there in the world. So what we think of it will depend on what we've learned in relation to that thing. And it can be really broad, everything that we've learned about health, everything we've learned about our body, other people's bodies, medicine, healthcare can be enormous. It's all coming to play in our opinion of the vaccine. And it's very logical that we think our opinion is right. In fact, it's inevitable because our opinion is based on beliefs. So the moment we think we know something, it has to be belief based, doesn't it? It's a belief. And history is full, jam-packed full of widespread beliefs, completely unquestioned beliefs. This is reality, that then became a widespread information that belief couldn't possibly be true. So there was a entire culture or entire world switch of belief because more evidence came. And so I think the first thing is that the most powerful space for us, the most realistic, the most true space for us is the acknowledgement of, I hold this position because that's my belief, that's what I've learned. And at the moment, I'm not seeing any other reason to disbelieve that. But it doesn't mean it's true. And that's so important, because when we fix on a belief and we don't allow for the possibility of that belief changing, and even more so when that belief becomes identified in with us, so dangerous, because that is then the closing down of all information to the contrary, isn't it? It's not only am I not allowing for the possibility of there being information that would disprove that belief, I have also hitched my survival, effectively, my whole identity, my whole idea of myself is hitched to that. So I will defend it, even when contrary information is coming in. I can't allow it. I have to block or withdraw or close down conversations, because my entire self is lives or dies with that belief, is how it feels. That, that's the outcome when the identity is associated in. And so and the more that happens, the more there's a closing off. There's like a shielded castle, really, around the self and that belief, and they're protected at all cost. And then there's conflict, there's relationships are damaged, there's all sorts comes from that, because the primary objective has to be secure myself, and I secure myself through the upholding of that belief. So it's a tremendously dangerous place to be, because it's so far removed from reality, and it's increasingly more removed. And the more things suffer as a result of that, then the more reason there is to hold on, the more reason there is to barricade ourselves away from any information to the contrary. But the opposite happens when we hold a belief. And all our behavior, really, everything, it makes sense for me to work. It makes sense for me to live in a house. It makes sense for me to have these friends. It makes sense for me to do this and that. Really, it's all because of this conditioned program. And there's such a freedom in saying, and particularly I think with children, when we're bringing up kids, and they say, I don't want to go to school, say, we could leap in with that. Well, everyone has to go to school. School is vital. It's necessary. It's you have to go to school, or you will you'll never amount to anything. You're going to fail. All of that is coming from an unquestioned reality. It's not belief, is it? It's just reality. This is reality. You have to go to school because of reality. But that's not true. You have to go to school because I'm by law responsible for you, and my belief, my conditioning, my learning, everything that's led me to this moment is saying it's better for you to go to school than not. And that is so powerful, because that allows for simultaneously the owning of the belief as something that this system has learned, and which currently this system doesn't see any evidence against. And it allows for a understanding that reality is not this fixed, objective, unwavering truth. It's a construct, and it's created moment by moment. And so powerful for children to see that, and they can only really see it from us when their conditioning, in a way, is taking place within the context that conditioning is just from the handed down learning that just seems right now. But if there was more evidence, if my prime objective is for you, my child, to flourish, and if there was evidence that showed that there was a better way for children to flourish than schools, then openness to that. So it's the same. So if we bring it back to the original question, it's the same with vaccines, pandemics, lockdowns, all the rest of it. It's what seems to be the most true at the moment, with openness to that changing on the basis of different information. So we stay present in the world, we stay open, we talk to people with radically different opinions to us, because there might be something in there that we haven't seen. That's enormous to be able to do that. And we remain, ironically, the more accountable, the more owning there is of the conditioning and the acknowledging of it, the less identification there is, because it's not me. These beliefs aren't me. They're just things that a system has acquired. And in that space, I don't have to defend anything, because it's not. I'm not tied into it. I can uphold it and act from it, but to mix it up with my identity is something that we can see when there's stress, when these conversations cause us stress, or when they cause us to either go into conflict or to withdraw. We can see that there is something in there that is very raw and life or death for this self idea. Yeah. So in terms of what the COVID vaccine shows us about reality, about the self, about other people, it's all of that. It's that space of acknowledging, learning, and seeing where there's that identification. So powerful. And it's the same for everything. It's the same for every aspect of form. So cool. Such a space of freedom as we move into that. Yeah, thank you. Great question. Bye.